Sit back, relax, put your belt on, and enjoy the show.
Now we will move on to previewing Draft Rugby Round 8. And we're going to start by looking at Super Rugby AU Round 8 this week. The bye is for the Waratahs have the bye. And what do you guys think? Is this a good or bad time for the Tars to have the bye?
Look, I actually think it's always good for the Tars to have a bye. But no, look,
the Tars and the bye go hand in hand.
I actually think it's quite good. They've just had two pretty physical matches, and I think there's a bit of confidence brewing there now. So having the week off, giving themselves a bit of time to try a few new things if they need to, or to build on what they've done before they come up against the lower two opponents for them in this Super Rugby AU to see if they can take a scalp or two. I think this is good timing for them.
I think any time is good for a good time for a bye when your team sucks. So good to give them an extra week to get organised. And like Nelson said, they've just had two hard games. So I think it's definitely a good thing.
Excellent. I was giving you guys an opportunity to boost up the Tars there, but it was good to see that you shut on them both again. That's fine. Just evidence of the way all Waratahs fans are feeling. So with that, let's move on to the Rebels and the Force in Melbourne. Amy Park returning in this one. Andrew Reddy returning from a couple of weeks ban for a red card for, we're not going to call it 3-week ban. Not going to call it punching, kind of like a gentle pushing motion of the face.
Yeah, the punch.
We'll call it a punch. All right. Richard Kahui back from a concussion, returning from the bench. Kyle Godwin returning straight into the starting lineup and captaining the side, the Force, starting at number 12, coming back from an ankle injury. And Jeremy Thrush, the old All Black, coming back from an ankle injury and straight into the starting lineup, the lock. Who wants to rip into this game?
Oh, look, I think we can share the load here with this one. Look, it's going to be interesting to see the last time these matches. Sorry?
Is that a thrush pun, is it? Share the load, Jeremy Thrush.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for that.
This is great content, boys.
Yeah, happy you spoke over me there. Look, last time these two teams came up against each other, the Rebels just edged the Force 10 points to 7. Look, it's going to be an interesting thing here. I think both teams have actually developed and become stronger since last time they came up against each other. The Force, finally, we're getting to see Niotti thrown into that side, who, I mean, he's just got to do some positives for them. No doubt in terms of their attack, because that's something they've been lacking, that tend to take the ball to the line, control that back line and actually be a real threat himself. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see how he goes. But yeah, look, it's going to be a pretty big matchup for both in terms of what it means for their season. The Rebels, if they get this win, lock them in at third. They've pretty much come third. No questions asked. They're in the finals. The Force, if they get this win, then they're at a very good shot. They're level peggings with the Rebels, and they've got a good crack at actually making the finals. And who knows, if the Force win and neither team gets a bonus point, then the Tars technically are still in it. So the game is alive and well for all involved here.
There's the optimist we were looking for.
I think the big thing for the Force on this one is the travel. They've played 3 games away from home. First of all, they played the Tars, and they got, to be honest, I think they escaped with a win against a very, very ordinary Waratahs side. Then they went down to the Reds up in Queensland by 7 points and played reasonably well. And then the Brumbies absolutely walloped them by 28 points. So my worry for any of the lower ranked sides in these competitions is as the competition goes on, the team wears a little bit thin, gets a little bit tired, and sometimes the gaps between the top teams and the bottom teams starts to spread. And I just wonder if the Western Force, this might be the week that you might see them start to, I guess, fade a little bit more, like we saw the Rebels against the Reds last week as well, to be honest. They turn off a little bit mentally, and all of a sudden things get bad from them, a lot worse than what you had expected.
We all have our areas of expertise, and if one cap podcaster, Balaki, is the weatherman, I think we're going to refer to Harry as the frequent flyer, because he's big on the travel. Thinks it's a significant indicator of how teams are going to go.
Yeah, often wrong. That's good.
Talking about Miotti, I think, look, we've said it every week. I just think we say the Force have a really great team, really good defensive line. The one thing they're missing has been that attacking punch. I'm excited to see not only Miotti at 10, McGregor at 15 again as well. Just having two generals that are kind of their play style is all out attack. I'm really hoping to see what can do. We've also got they're rolling out a new winger instead of Marcel Baraki. We're going to have Jordan and watch me butcher this name. Awolafula or something. I don't even have it in front of me, so I've just made it up.
Olawafella. I think it's Olawafella. Yeah, look, he's come across.
He's
from
a hell
England.
of a fella, apparently. Quite big props on him.
Yeah, he's English under 20s, English sevens.
That's the only problem.
In the English squad as well. Yeah, he's English. That's the big issue. But Leicester Tigers player who's come across with some, relatively good raps about him. Obviously, when you're playing, at sevens and 15s for your country and under 20s, you're clearly a good finisher. So it'll be good to see him. I think if they can get the ball to him, which now they're going to have more opportunity to do that, give him some space with the 10, actually going to hopefully create some space for outside him. And Godwin, hopefully we see him have a positive influence to the men outside him as well. Hopefully we get to see, a more lethal back line for the Force, because it's definitely something they need.
Yeah, that's going to be a really exciting battle with Jordan, because he's lightning quick apparently, but he'll be up against Frank Lamani. So that's going to be a very cool one to watch. I have no idea what's going to happen there. The Rebels.
The test for the Force is going to be the fact that they've completely changed their back line again. Like literally 10, 12, 11, 15 are all been just shuffled around. Like the Force, more than anyone, had just decided to use this season as a bit of a trial to work out what the hell they want to do moving forwards. And I think that's going to be the biggest telling factor here is that, yes, I know the Melbourne Rebels have got Holland coming in, who I'm sure we're about to speak about, but realistically, they're a settled unit. The Western Force is just like, they put names into a hat and they roll them out every single week. It's just, it can't be good for their structure. It can't be good for the defense. I actually think the defense is going to get worse.
Yeah, I think that's where you'll see it. You'll see it in the defence, but they clearly don't buy into, cohesion as an important factor here, because 100%, they could have tried to work in some of these changes a little bit earlier and actually spread them out or do a different method to get some of these players on the paddock off the bench. But instead of throwing them all in together, it's like week one for them. We're sure they were decent in week one, but the cohesion means we're going to see, the punishment for them in defence. As this time wears on, their defensive structures won't be there.
And speaking of changes, a guy who we did think would roll out every week has been captain for the last few weeks, but Bernard Stander. He's been dropped to the bench, which I thought was, quite spectacular. I guess, they probably did need to give Thomas Lozano a starting run sometime. He's a fantastic player. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, Fergus Lee Warner is probably their best player, and they want to start him at 6. I could have thought you could have started Lozano at 7 and Stander at 8. That's a pretty immense pack for mine. But he's not really a specialist jackler the same way Kateka is. Is that how you see it?
I reckon Kane Kateka is a specialist nothing. I agree with Lozano at open side.
Yeah, look, I think for me it's a no-brainer. Lozano at 7. I think Kateka gets through some work. I wouldn't call him a specialist pilferer.
And then also Tim Anstey still in the Wallabies, but still on the bench for the Force. I can't really see, we've discussed it before, but I can't really see them fitting him in. They're not going to start him at lock. They've now obviously got Sitaleki, Thrush. I know Rodder is not joining for a while, but, they're not going to start him at lock, and they really want to play Fergus Lee Warner at 6. So I guess he'll seek to impact off the bench.
He'll start a game here or there. Like, let's not forget he's only played a few Super Rugby games, so give him a bit of time.
Very good. All right, let's move on to the Rebels, I think.
Tip. What's your tip?
Rebels. Sorry.
We haven't talked about the Rebels.
Same game, the Rebels, just discussing. We've talked about, Frank Lamani starting on the wing, definitely deserved that. Otherwise, some other changes. Ulysses to the bench, Chibba Hansen to start. Not really sure what that is, other than I guess we can just assume that the Prince that was promised could be under an injury cloud again, just because he lives under an injury cloud. The the man sponsored by Elastoplast without being sponsored by Elastoplast, as we also mentioned.
Yeah. But he's on the bench as well. I just think for them, he hasn't done enough for them to go, you deserve a starting spot every week. There's so much promise there. I just don't think he's reached those limits, and maybe this is a way to give him another kick up the bum to say, pull a finger out. We want to see a bit more from you.
Yeah, fair. I guess, if it was Rangi who used to be really kicking the door down, you'd think it would be easy to start him with. No disrespect to old mate Chipper Hansen, but old mate Chipper Hansen's an old mate. So
he has a lot of chance. But yeah, look, one that I'm excited about is Rob Leota. I don't see him as a lock, but when he's had his chance off the bench, I think he's actually, he's been involved and helped make things happen. Whether it be defensively around rucks and mauls, slowing the ball down for the other team, speeding the ball up for them, in rucks and mauls. But he also just runs very, very hard. He's got a bit of a deft touch in the pass, which is, surprising for a bigger man. But it'll just be good to see him get some more opportunity in this one.
I love Leo. He's going to smash people. Part of the illustrious Burn Boys or whatever it is. And there's a little known fact, but having a majestic mullet the same way that Bonefa Amasili does, doubling the mullet doubles the team's performance. So I expect a huge game from the Rebels here. I think, Harry, what do you think about the Rebels?
Well, first I would say Chipper Hansen is 32. He's 2 years younger than Dane Coles, so he can't be too old. Secondly...
That's pasture in terms of Australian hooker ages, okay?
Yeah, right. Okay. And then secondly, I'm the most excited to see the guy that we thought from the start of the year was going to be in the 12 jersey, Louis Holland. So we were talking about how they manage that 10-12 access with Timur and Holland, and is he going to be the guy to slide in there? And I'm really excited to see how that works. And he's obviously an incredibly experienced sevens player for Australia. He's got the most tries ever in sevens in Australia, and he's the captain, or he was the captain of the sevens side. I expect him to go to the Olympics this year as well. So I just can't wait to see his impact.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm more excited about, Hodge back at fullback or seeing Holland start at 12. I just, look, I thought he looked really good on the weekend. I think him and Skelton looked really good coming off the bench. They looked just so keen to get into their work. At points, maybe they looked a little lost, like they were kind of, there were so many more players on the field or whatever. I mean, obviously they've played 15s before, but God, they're impressive athletes. And I think, when they get some more game time under them, they're really good.
I just think they didn't get much of an opportunity. The Rebels didn't have the ball when they were on, but I mean, no one throws a better long ball than Holland. So I'm excited to see him there outside Tamua. I like the access between those two, and Hodgie shifting out to fullback, and maybe he can utilise his kick and insert himself where he is needed into this game. But I'm quite excited to see that. And hopefully we see Skelton get a little bit more game time so we can actually see what he can offer.
And so I was just going to say, so what you're saying, Holland can throw a long ball, so we can expect him to cut out the nothing that is Stacey Illy on a consistent basis and get the ball out to Frank Lamani.
Yes.
He's going to have the game of his life in my fantasy team. Look, I would just mention as well for fantasy footy players out there that they have said Reece Hodge, they're looking at him at 15 for the Wallabies, and that they were hoping that he played there this season. But then with all the injuries at inside centre for the Rebels, that's why he ended up playing there. So I think that sheds a lot of light about what we can expect moving forward. And Holland is actually probably quite a strong chance of getting some consistent game time in that position.
Yeah, I agree. And also, Stacey Illy wasn't signed for them. So hopefully we don't see him much longer.
And I think we've talked about Reece Hodge for heaps, but I think Hodge is a fullback. I think I've always thought that, and I'm excited to see him play there. So should be good.
So I'm going to tip the Rebels by 9.
Very good, Nels.
Look, I'd love to say the Force because it suits the Waratahs, but I'm going to probably say the Rebels to win by... It's hard to do much different because I think that's on point. I'm going to say 8.
And to round it out, I'm going to say the Rebels by 10. So I'll take the outlier on that one. So sounds good.